run the room real quick. Like, who are you? Why are you here?
I'm Ethan, and I'm here because you told me to submit a topic idea and I accepted, so I spoke here.
Somebody else? I'm just curious. Just curious. Himself? Yeah.
Same thing with me.
Awesome. So, my name is Dan. You can find me on Twitter as @Callahan. The joined in link for this talk is 14010. Please leave feedback at the end. I work at Mozilla. Particularly, I'm spending a lot of time looking at the Firefox Developer Edition. You can find it at firefox.com/developer. It's a version of Firefox that comes kind of before our beta channel, so you get earlier access to web platform features, you get some newer and experimental developer tools. It's super cool, really worth checking out. And that's kind of it for slides. We're going to spend most of this talk, and there is another slide, but we're not going to talk about that yet. Most of this talk is going to be me poking at things on my phone and you asking me questions. So if you don't want to speak up, that's fine, but make the person next to you, right? So like buddy system. At least half the people in the room have to say something before the end. So Firefox OS. Firefox OS is evidently designed to give you just what you want, just when you need it. I don't make the marketing slogans. I don't know who does, but I am not particularly impressed. It's a, but if you look at this, you see this website and you're like, all right, that looks like a phone. All right, Firefox OS, this sounds like a phone operating system. And surprise, it is. What makes Firefox OS different is that literally everything in Firefox OS is a web app. So I've got a phone sitting over here. People see that fine? Yeah. All right, so I've got a phone. It's running Firefox OS. I can scroll, I can open a clock. You know, it has all the things that you would expect a phone to have.
Are you running a custom build?
I'm running a nightly build of version 3. So this is kind of an in-development experimental Firefox OS. In Firefox Developer Edition, I have this button that says Open Web IDE. I can also go into Developer and choose Web IDE from this menu. And in the Web IDE, this is a way that we can connect the Firefox dev tools to other targets. So in particular, I can select runtime, I can choose Install Simulator. And in here, you'll have the option to install simulators for a bunch of different versions of Firefox OS. The Tools Adapters add-on is kind of cool. That lets you actually connect Firefox DevTools to Chrome, to Safari, to other browser engines. Super rad. But what I'm most interested in is connecting the Web IDE to my actual phone. So I'm going to plug in the USB cable. And I can see under USB devices, I have Firefox OS Flame. Click that, I get a prompt to allow debugging or not. So I'll click allow. And now up in the Web IDE, a little bigger, I can see a list of all of the apps on the phone, including things like, so I can go back into the clock. Let's go into the clock. And if I go and launch the clock on my phone, what you can see is as I hover over things, they highlight just like you'd expect the web inspector to highlight, right? I've got LIs with the different tabs. I can see the CSS rules down at the bottom. If I resize this over the side. And I can adjust CSS as I would like. So let's change the font size to 100 pixels. And it updates live. But this isn't limited to applications on the phone. The only way to get something to display on a Firefox OS device is to use HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. So I can go here and I can open the system app in the debugger. And in here, I've got a div ID equals screen. And if I expand that, I've got a bunch of divs, including div ID equals status bar. And you can see the status bar highlighted over on the actual phone. So like real hardware being updated. And go over here and I can say, all right, let's change the style sheet and say background color red. And the actual interface, like the core operating system interface, is updating live on my device. So this is kind of cool. Literally everything. The lock screen, the system tray, the app launcher, the apps themselves, all HTML, JavaScript, CSS. You can write them using tools you're used to. You can debug them using tools you're used to. Cool, right? Let's turn that back off. So we built this thing. We're building this thing because it seems like the mobile world is in danger of splitting into two silos, both of which require native code, both of which are not truly open. And it seems like the web is the one platform that has a chance of being a universal platform, right? We're not trying to take Firefox OS and create a competitor to iOS and Android. We're trying to take Firefox OS and show that the web can be as capable as native apps on those platforms. And that you should be able to write once for the web and run that code anywhere that has a good rendering engine, be it Gecko, be it Blink, be it whatever. So this is kind of a proof of concept. And we've actually launched into retail channels in, I believe, as of yesterday, 33 countries. So yesterday we added Senegal and Madagascar to the list. You'll notice that there are a lot of Western European and North American countries missing. We tried to introduce Firefox OS. This project's been going on for about 3 years. Tried to introduce it into markets that were just making the transition from feature phones to smartphones. Because we aren't currently able, or weren't then able to compete head on with the kind of $700 first world premium device market. So we just in Africa, we've announced a partnership with Orange. We launched a phone that retails for like $40 there, but has a full web experience, super capable, dual SIM. And we're really trying to come in and say, all right, we can provide a better experience at a much lower price point than any other comparable smartphone. In North America, you'll see us launching phones in partnership with Verizon early next year into this year. And Panasonic has actually gotten on board with Firefox OS, and all of their 4K TVs will be powered by Firefox OS.
All of them?
All of the 4K ones.
Wow.
Yeah, so if you want to go and like write an app for your TV, well, you write a web app and you run it on your TV, because your TV will have an up-to-date modern rendering engine. So, cool stuff, right? How do you actually distribute apps? On the phone, we have a marketplace that you go into, and if the Wi-Fi works, use Wi-Fi, office Wi-Fi. Yay, I have apps that I can go and install. But this is about the web. It's not about, we don't want to provide login. We don't want to try to compete with the app stores and other silos of the world. So this marketplace is also available on the web, but it's not the only place to get applications. So much like you would find with building things for the web right now, you can go put things online and they will just work. And it will be fine. It will be great. There isn't a ton of distinction between things you get from the App Store and things that you get yourself. As a quick example, I'm going to launch a simulator here. And so one of the things that's kind of cool is I can go to a website like forecast.io. Yeah, let it know my location here. And so I've got this nice, if you guys ever use this, the same guys that make the dark sky app on iOS. Yeah, nice little weather app. I go here, it'll load up. And this is all just the web. I can do this in my browser just as well. But the cool thing about Firefox OS is that I can sit here and I can say, all right, add this to my home screen. And now, simulator. And now at the bottom here, I've got this forecast link. I click that. And the network connection fails. But okay, it launches in a UI that's equivalent to that of all of the other apps on the system. So we're really not privileging native apps over web apps. Like all these things can kind of live in the same app launcher, in the same location. Yeah.
Question. So I noticed it looks like it opens the browser, so it still has like the browser Chrome on there.
Yeah.
Is that something you can change, or does it have to be like installed app?
You can, or I think it does have to be an installed app for that, but the browser Chrome should minimize itself if this finishes loading.
Oh, okay.
So when this is done loading, what you should see is something that's, I'm gonna find the camera. Wait, the camera has to keep going. Let's do something like the phone. So even on the phone, up at the top, you still see this button that says search the web.
Right.
And you click that, and you get a URL bar, you get history, the whole thing. So really from anywhere in the phone, you can click on the status bar at the top and have a like URL bar, search bar, or whatever. Everything is webby. You can also use edge gestures to go between apps. So that's kind of the idea. Everyone kind of follow on the design, trying to blur the lines between native apps and web apps, because the native apps are just web apps. Kind of cool, right?
So what requirements does it need to run? Like how minimal can you go?
We were able to, does anyone know what you guys know what the Tarako, the $25 phone?
Have is looking idea.
Yeah. So the lowest end device that we shipped on is this Intex Cloud FX device in India, which costs $30 retail. And let's see, yeah, 128 megs of RAM. It doesn't run well, but it runs way better than you would expect. So what we're doing, the way we built this, is that we've taken the Android fork of the Linux kernel and basically ripped out everything above it and replaced it just with Firefox. So we have a layer called Gong, which is our Linux sister that has the Android Linux kernel, a hardware abstraction layer, the Bluetooth daemon, things like that. On top of that, we put Gecko, the Firefox rendering engine, and on top of that, we have a UI layer called Gaia, which you can find all the stuff on GitHub. So like the Gaia repo on GitHub has this folder apps, and in here is a folder for every native app on the device. We can go into the clock, and again, we can see just here's the index.html for the clock. It's got a bunch of style sheets. It's got a bunch of views, all just the web, all open source, all online. Because we're reusing the Linux fork of the Android kernel, a lot of the tools that you might be familiar with from Android development work. So I can say ADB shell. And the daemon reboots. Why it's not found? No. Boo. I should be able to ADB shell in here. I'll debug this later if you want to see it. But it's really just a super minimal Linux device, or Linux kernel running a Gecko instance. All right, so you want to hack on this yourself. Mozilla Developer Network, so developer.mozilla.org/Firefox OS has links to all sorts of information about what this does. But instead of telling you about that, what I want to do is take the next half hour or so and actually dig into hacking on this phone. Before we do that, does anyone have questions about what's going on here? Yeah.
Where's stuff stored, like say a signal alarm on your clock?
I'm not sure what the clock actually does.
That would be on the cloud.
No, I mean, so things are able to work completely offline. And so the clock after that, the option of using IndexedDB, or there are other storage options available from built-in apps. But,
So when you make your own app, could it store locally?
oh yeah, totally. So yeah, so let's jump into an example of porting an actual app to Firefox OS. So the goal that we're trying to get to, yeah?
Yeah, so say I want to start developing on Firefox OS. Can I get a phone now, or can I install it on a phone, an existing phone today myself?
So the device issue is we're in an awkward in-between period. We custom wrote a bunch of phones that Flames, like you're seeing here, as a developer reference device early last year. We've since kind of burned through our supplies of those. We've got a couple hundred left. If anyone in this room would actually hack on this and would like one, talk to me afterwards. I'll mail you one. But the story for consumers is that if you're in one of the countries where Firefox OS is supported, you can walk into a store and buy a device. If you want a higher spec developer phone, we're in the process of figuring out what our next generation dev device will be, but it's looking like we're going to try targeting existing consumer hardware that you might already have. So things like the Nexus phones or like the Sony Xperia Z3. All of those are currently supported in the B2G code base. So you can actually, B2G is the code name for Firefox OS. It stands for boot to gecko. So you can actually go to the B2G code base, check it out, say configure this for a Nexus 5 or configure this for a Z3 compact. It'll build an image, you flash it just like any other Android ROM, and you're running Firefox OS. I know that we run really well on the Nexus 4, the Nexus 5, the Z3, and the Z3 compact. So if you have one of those at your disposal, go for it. Expect a lot more on that, like especially once we put devices into the North American channel through Verizon. Things should be a lot more straightforward. So let's talk about apps. So the goal that we're shooting for with Firefox OS is that it's really just the web. That there shouldn't be a difference between developing for Firefox OS and developing for any other mobile web browser. And that's generally true for applications that don't need to interface with device and hardware. So an example of that is there's this game, Oh No, like 0HN0, which is kind of fun. If you've ever played there's also Oh Hi, which is kind of a predecessor to this, which is kind of fun. It's in the 2048 vein of puzzles. So the way it works is each blue dot has a number of how many other blue dots it can see, and it can't see through red dots. So if this blue dot can see one other blue dot, well, it can't be down, it can't be up, it has to be down. Right? Fun logic puzzle. Running the browser, I think they use Cordova, whatever, really simple game. So it's got to be red, we can kind of go through this and solve it. If I want to play this on my Firefox OS phone, let's go back to the simulator, just to be a little quicker about it. So I can use an actual keyboard. So I can go into the browser, I can go to odo.com. And you can see they've used responsive design, like the interface adapts. Let's get the tutorial. And I go play this game. If I wanted to have this available on a home screen, again, all I have to do is say, add to home screen. So no. There we go. Anyway, I can launch it. It kind of acts like a super bookmark, but there really isn't a meaningful distinction between bookmarks and apps. The one trick is this is still loading from the web. It's kind of an ugly icon. If I wanted to provide the ability to actually go and install this on a Firefox OS phone, instead of saying, bookmark this and it shows up on the home page. Yeah, simulator bugs, there we go. What I can do is I can take the source of this. So I've cloned Odo, and let's convert this into an open web app. So if we open up index.html, is that big enough? Do people see that? So I've got all the metadata for Twitter and Facebook, whatever. And then this home menu has how to play, and about. So let's add data action equals install. A button to install it, and now let's go implement this. It turns out that these action handlers are implemented in JS game.js. So we got this big switch case block with all the different actions. So we'll add a case install. And so when we install, the way we're going to install this app on our device is by calling navigator.mozapps.install. Eventually, if the web apps working group standardizes, this will not be vendor prefixed. It will just be navigator.apps.install. And we pass that link to a JSON document with metadata about this application. So we'll say this is on callahan.github.io/odo/manifest.webapp. But we have to go go create that manifest file, right? And so that's going to look very, very simple. Like I said, it's just a JSON blob. Manifest.web app. We have to have a name. We have to have a description. And icons are recommended. Specifically, 128 will be, let's see, this already shows us some images. So that will be it. So the interesting thing, we're going to throw something like GitHub Pages. So it's actually going to be rooted at callahan.github.io, but the app is going to be deployed in a subfolder Odo. So all of our paths have to be prefixed with that path. Odo image, icon 128.png, and let's do 512. We've got our icons, and then the last thing I have to provide is a launch path. So when I'm running this, what file should I actually load? In this case, it's Odo index.html. That's all I have to do to just fully describe my app in a way that the operating system can install and use it. Does that make sense? So let's go down here and say git status. So we added those tiny little lines. We're going to git add manifest.web app git say posted web app push. So, right, we'll give GitHub a second to regenerate, but if I come over here to the actual phone, the projector backend, open up my browser, go to there's my history. So callahan.github.io/odo. So game loads. And now I have that install button that I added, and when I click on that, I get a prompt saying, do you want to install this? The author is unknown, the size is unknown. I could add that metadata to the manifest if I wanted to show up, but for the purpose of examples, install. The app has been installed, so if I go home, you can see I've got it right in my launcher right there. If I click it, splash screen, and the game loads. So that's a way I can provide an install them. So if I have a bunch of web apps that I've made, I could have an index. This is exactly how our marketplace works, by the way. It's like, we just call navigator.mozapps.install and pass it a different manifest depending on which button you click. And again, I can see up here, I click that, and I can see the normal universal search bar, whatever. Super webby, super simple. The problem with this is that this is still online, right? Like, all I've done is really just create an install button for a bookmark. But I want to be able to play this when I'm, on an airplane or offline or whatever. How do you do that? Any suggestions, any thoughts? But before we get there, think web. How do you make a web app work offline? Local storage is part of it. So there's a technology called app cache, which is super, super terrible, but is functional, that lets you actually provide to the browser a manifest of all of the resources that your app needs, and the browser will go out and cache it and make those available when you're offline. There's an upcoming standard called Service Worker, which makes things even better, which actually gives you kind of programmatic dynamic caching. So you can go and save these resources and use a service worker to say, like, all right, when I'm trying to load this, see if I have it in my cache. If I don't, go and get it from the web and save it in my cache, or like erase the network versus your local cache, whatever. All these things you can do on the web today. They're not Firefox OS specific. You can set, this is all browser, so you can also just set long cat control headers and say, don't expire this, or let this live for this long. And the browser will respect that, the same way you make an app work offline today. There is also a second option in Firefox OS, which is the ability to create a packaged app, where it can effectively take what we just did and just zip it all up and give the browser a zip file and say, all right, just here's an entire copy of my whole website, just store that, deal with it. I don't have to write special code to go offline. This is where we start diverging from the it's just the web story. It's a nice hack, but what would be better and what we're trying to do is make sure that the ability to have nice offline experiences is something that comes to the web as a whole, so it's not limited to like platform-specific technologies. So to switch this over to the contrast is cool now. There we go, that's better. To switch this over to what's called a packaged app, we have to make two really, really minor modifications. So remember we said game.js install. We're already called navigator mods apps install and passed it a path to this manifest file. If we want to install a package, like a zip file, so we say install package. And then we have to go update our manifest to include, in addition to a launch path, to include a package path, which is the location of a zip file that you want to install on the device. In this case, we'll say this is at https callahan.github.io/photo/photo.zip. Because we're going to be installing a zip file, all of a sudden all our things will be rooted in that zip file, so you can get rid of these prefixes here. Save that. And then we have to actually go generate this zip file, right? So let's say zip -r photo. We don't want to put the git stuff inside the zip file. All right, so we've got a zip file. Again, right now our diff is super, super minimal. It's just that. And zip file. So if I commit this and say package app. Come back over here. Go home. This. Go back to GitHub. Refresh. All right, so now when I click install, we're calling install package, sending it that link to that zip file. Install. It looks the same, it acts the same, except now that this is installed, if I turn off Wi-Fi, airplane mode, it opens and runs just fine because of all the resources that are stored locally. Kind of cool, right? Like if you have something that works on the web right now, it'll work on Firefox OS right now. And you can have that install or install package directive and have the manifest to give a slightly more fluid user experience for your users, but you don't have to. You can use normal web technologies, normal web techniques to make this stuff happen. Let's turn it back off. Does that make sense? Like literally you are just making websites and then the browser, which is the phone, is viewing them. Kind of cool? So, we'll go to the other slide that I mentioned, that I alluded to, the horrible other slide. All we've done are just things that do things that the web can do right now. But the phone has a lot of interesting hardware. It has Bluetooth, it has NFC, that the web doesn't have a standard for. So on Firefox OS, we've started trying to develop a series of APIs to provide access to this hardware, and we've kind of stratified it into 3 categories: public, privileged, and certified. In public APIs, you have all the things you're used to with web development. Anything on your phone can use these, period. So you can do vibration, geolocation, IndexedDB. The alarm, okay, so there's an alarm API that the W3 is apparently working on. We support that. The things in bold are things that have W3 standards in the works. The things that aren't in bold are things that we had to create to make a viable phone that we would like to standardize someday, but that just there hasn't been enough interest from other vendors to get there. So like FM radio tuning, we have a web API, a JavaScript API for that, but it's not something that other people have come in and helped us bring to the W3, because the W3's kind of standard is 2 implementations, or 2 vendors trying to implement it before they'll move. So we're working on these things. They're where they are. You can use them now. But that doesn't give us access to NFC or to SMS or things like that. So if we go up to the privilege level, you get access to things like raw TCP sockets. So if you want to implement an IRC client on the phone, you can do that using a privileged API. Or access the contacts database, which should, again, all these should eventually make their way back up to the public level if we're successful to get standardized, if we kind of work out kinks on them. We also have things like NFC, System XHR. System XHR lets you do XML HTTP requests without limiting you to the same origin policy. So you can use that if you actually have to go and retrieve external things. Again, only accessible by privileged APIs. And then we have the certified internal APIs, which are the ones that like could run afoul of the FCC, or the things that could cost you money. So things like sending SMS is still a certified API. Things like actually modifying Bluetooth connections is still a certified API. And the only things by default that have access to certified APIs are things apps that have come preloaded on your phone. Again, because of regulatory or just like rendering your device useless concerns, or causing, like charging you money. The TV tuner stuff. That's something that's coming down the pike now that we're working with Panasonic. But the cool thing about Firefox OS is that you have a phone, you can push whatever you want. If you can push an app using one of these APIs on your device, you can use it. We're just not allowing broad distribution. Like it would be super bad if you hit a website and like drive-by SMS everyone in your contact list, right? So we're trying to wall those off. And as we get more comfortable with how these APIs get used in system apps, then we'll try to harden the interface and make them available at lower levels of privileges. And to get into those APIs, we got to talk about types of apps. So there's hosted and packaged are the 2 main distinctions. We saw that with the ONO example. We first created a hosted app, which is just, here's some metadata and here's a URL. Then we convert it to a packaged app, which is, here's some metadata and here's a zip file. There's also bookmarks, which are kind of indistinguishable from hosted apps. They just don't have that metadata manifest. And the main differences you'll see when you're using these, hosted apps only get to use the public APIs because they're just web apps. Like they don't get special system privileges. Packaged apps can access any API. Again, if you push the app yourself to your phone, you can do whatever. Otherwise, you're limited to privileged ones. Offline packaged apps are implicitly offline. You don't have to have a server or anything for a packaged app because it's, again, just a zip file. One of the other interesting things, again, to prevent like drive-by abuse or exfiltration of data from your app, if you have a packaged app that's using privileged or certified APIs, you're subject to a mandatory content security policy. So everything in your app gets something, gets a CSPI, looks something like this. That basically says you can only load scripts and CSS style sheets from inside your own app. So you can't go and load malicious JavaScript that might eventually be man in the middle or something like that. CSPs, again, like normal browser thing, super awesome to read about, lately whitelist things and just turn off cross-site scripting attacks. It's amazing. What this doesn't restrict, though, is where you can put iframes. So if you really do need access or need to embed external content inside a privileged app, you can put that inside an iframe. And that kind of gets the normal iframe sandboxing, which keeps things copacetic there. So let's look at an example of actually using this. So one of the privileged areas, one of the certified APIs is Wi-Fi management, right? So let's build an app real quick that will show all of the current Wi-Fi networks that my phone can see. So if I go into the web ID, I'll open up Wi-Fi test, and I'll connect to Flame. Wow. So I've got a really basic index.html file, which just says IP address in a slot, current network in a slot. There's less SSIDs in the UL. My JavaScript goes in here and says, all right, uses the Moz Wi-Fi Manager API. So this is the Wi-Fi Manager API that's certified, that's not available to normal web apps. To get the current network, to get the current connection info, I go ahead and update the text content of the IP address slot, or SSID slot from my index file. Then I go call Moz Wi-Fi Manager get networks, which will go and scan to see everything I can see. It's a promise, so when that promise resolves, I'll go through every network, create an LI element, set its text content, and append it, right? So the interesting thing here is using this Moz Wi-Fi Manager API, and in order to have access to that, in my manifest, I have to say that the type of my app is certified, and then the permission it needs is Wi-Fi managed. So every one of these certified APIs that you can find on MDN. So on MDN, we have a list of all of these APIs that say what permission you need to use, what the API is, etc. So to use this to say, like, I want this app to have access to this. So permission is Wi-Fi managed. And then when I push this to my phone, even though this is a certified API, my phone's able to use those APIs and run them. Again, we want to limit what people can distribute, but not what you can put on your own device, because you own the device, right? Yeah, super simple. We can hop in a debugger here and see console, like navigator, Moz Wi-Fi Manager, Git networks, then function networks, console networks. So we look at this and say, all right, so we got an array of Moz Wi-Fi networks that have the BSSID, whether they're hidden, the frequency, like all this information I can access through JavaScript. And I can use JavaScript, again, from an app that I write on my phone to send SMS. I can write JavaScript to turn the device on, turn the device off, to make raw socket connections. And so the really cool thing about this is that my coworker Soledad, we don't have audio, do we? Oh no, well, I'll narrate for her. So she wrote an app that used the NFC APIs and the TCP socket, the Wi-Fi manager, to set up a hotspot on her Firefox OS phone and to run a web server on that same phone and to, on NFC, give out URLs to her phone, to her web server with cat GIFs.
So we have the cat server, which is an app that actually has a web server inside it. And it also uses NFC. So when I touch with NFC in it with this other phone, which is Nexus 4 Flash with Firefox. So
This is the Flame touching a Nexus 4. So cross-device.
So now we get cats in this other one.
And so the cat GIF is actually being, that one phone is being displayed, is actually being served by the other phone.
Yeah.
All using JavaScript,
Which
which is kind of rad. So you can literally do anything the phone can do using the skills you have as a front-end web developer, right? And we're not going to stop you. Like that's what, it's an okay phone. It's a working phone. Like I'm switching full-time once I get home, I can like that and, because I don't have personal data on there for the conference, but it's fine as a phone. What's exceptional about Firefox OS is that you go and hack it to do absolutely ridiculous things, and it's utterly trivial. So you can make a cat server. It does not take much code. We can, here, just in case you're curious, it's not the www folder. These are all the cats that it serves up. But it's really just like, all right, get an image, here's the array, go to index.html, using the Firefox OS web server.js. it just works. Like you can actually put together legit stuff using, I think this is using browser defines Node.js modules even. But because Gecko is providing a hardware abstraction layer and like then exposing that over JavaScript. That's what exciting. I don't have to learn Java, I don't have to learn Objective-C. I can still make cool phone apps. We got a couple more minutes before the next session. Let's get all the stuff that I wanted to show.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I wrote a Firefox OS app. It's on Firefox OS 2, and it drives a Bluetooth car. So I'm cheating because there are no APIs for using a Bluetooth socket.
Right.
So I wrote a 2-line script that uses netcat, and it creates a little web service that lets you send Bluetooth strings out. So I want to know when I can get a real Bluetooth API.
I mean, as far as Bluetooth goes, I think there was recently interest from Apple. Don't quote me on that. From someone, one of the vendors, to actually start standardizing the Bluetooth APIs. Which once that happens, we'll adapt our APIs, and hopefully expose it privileged. But right now, there is the Web Bluetooth API, which has a bunch of interfaces, a bunch of stuff that in a app that you push yourself, you host on GitHub or whatever else, you could do this right now. It wouldn't be able to be in the store, but again, right now the demographics for Firefox OS tend to be people that are switching from feature phones or people that are JavaScript hackers. The former category probably doesn't have as much interest in using a phone to control an RC car, and the RC car probably has its own remote. The latter group is probably comfortable git clone, git push.
I've given talks about this. The phone goes with the car, so it's autonomous.
Oh, what? No, really? I haven't seen that. Holy cow, hang on. What's your name?
Trev, eventually, it's on GitHub.
Yeah, I'll have to take your videos. Yeah, that sounds awesome.
I tweeted, I think, the link. It's on Freaks. I'll find it.
Yeah, I'll check that out. Yeah, if the standardizing the Bluetooth API, making it available outside of certified apps is something that would be important to you, we can try to move faster on that. But, yeah.
So I also have BeagleBone Black, which is running a Wi-Fi access point, and it's my Q server. So all these robotic phones, I've got 3 of them now, they talk to the Q to find out what broadcast messages are going on, so play games. So it's fun.
That's crazy. Yeah, rad. Yeah, we should talk afterwards about what you actually need out of the Bluetooth API. Is it mainly just this privilege issue, or?
Yeah, the APIs weren't there at all. So to open a socket and just send stuff through a serial interface, at least in the OS 2. I haven't looked at OS 3 recently.
I could have sworn that those were made in like 2.3, but yeah, it's worth piling on Mozilla, and I'm happy to file one for you.
Yeah, okay. Well, I need to update my phone. It's only OS 2. If you're around, I'll bring it tomorrow.
Yeah, we overhauled the API in 2.1. I don't know if the current API is still deficient for your needs, but there is a new version of the API. Any other questions?
I know you didn't really talk about this, but what's going to happen with the web activities? Because I know that there's been sort of a fight with Google about this. I think.
Hello?
I don't know what will happen. Things will happen.
Yeah.
It's the web.
Right.
If something goes in a way that's not good, somebody will probably feel it to make it better. But no, I don't know what the current status is or what the talks are looking like. Anything else? All right. Remember, joined in 14010. If you have questions, tweet me at Callahan. If you want to get one of these phones to hack on, talk to me afterwards. Thank you all so much.